So, you know, you've already outlined you were the engineering brains behind Apple, and that Steve was the business side. Anything you designed, he wanted to sell. And with your experience in this, I'm sure that you have some lessons about business and entrepreneurship. And you know, you're a pioneer. You went out there and did things where none of us were out there before. So for this group, I'm kind of curious as to what your views are about entrepreneurship and about how to carve out new areas.
Well, you know, well, Apple's sort of like maybe not the best example, because what if the two of us had been really great at building one of the greatest bicycles in the world? Well, a bicycle doesn't do everything a computer does. A computer kind of does millions and millions of things, and they sell all over the world. And so a computer is kind of like a very huge, huge thing that Apple's become. We were doing the right thing at the time that it was going to become affordable and solve a lot of problems for people. When I talk to young entrepreneurs, more than anything else, I tell them, look, you don't have very much. First of all, don't think that you can sell ideas that are just written down on paper. Make sure you've got some technical people, some people who can actually do like working models. We had a working model when we started Apple, and that's very important. And don't just think, oh, we'll just buy engineering as a resource. When it comes time, we'll hire an engineer and pay him once we have the money. Go as far as you can on your own money, because then you're going to own a larger percentage of whatever you develop. If it does become something very valuable, a big successful company, you'll own a higher percentage than going out to get money before you've done anything at all on it. Don't worry about being a little bit slow and delayed. Do the product with the excellence it takes to do it in that time frame. And actually sometimes you have to believe the market is the most important thing. Marketing is the most important thing for a company. Understanding how people are going to get it and how they're going to use it. The trouble is, if it's a brand new product that never existed, you can't study people. And you don't have to listen to the big companies that say, this thing won't go, people aren't going to want the technology this way, because they're only used to the people they're selling to now. And you're addressing a whole different group of people, a whole different market. And so basically build something you can with very, very little bit of money. And then if you can actually make something off that, you could show it to others, raise a little bit more money, and build something bigger, and that gives you the profits to build something even bigger and better. And that's sort of the growth phase to expect. And you're going to be working very, very hard. Everybody, you start a company, you're young. Look at the great revolutionary companies that started, like Apple and Google, Facebook, Twitter, Yahoo. These were all started by young people just out of college or not even out of college. One after another, because young people aren't hung up with the ideas of way things have been done before. We just have to, we're in a company. Companies think we got to crank the money machine and keep doing the same thing we've done forever. And they don't say, we have to do something very different than we've done that competes with it. Nobody wants to compete with yourself. So it's very difficult for companies to say, maybe there's an alternate new way. No, all we have to do is protect our existing money machine, and young people don't think that way. They aren't attached to any of that. They don't have rules in life. You have to do things a certain way, that you even have to make a profit.
Yeah, I would think that most people in this room, I certainly do, think that you're probably the number one techie in the world. You know, you're certainly, I think you're actually employee number one of Apple, but you're certainly a techie. This entire conference has been around the issue of retailers figuring out how to deal with the growing online industry. And I wonder for you, you know, do you buy a lot online?
I buy a lot online, and I buy a lot in stores. And I generally prefer an experience in a store unless it's late at night and the store isn't open. Because I find knowledgeable people in good stores, like a camera store, that has somebody that really knows all the different products that compare, you know, high and low end, what some of your alternatives might be, even if they don't sell it. They'll be able to give you good advice because they're smart. And I like seeing something in my hand and knowing that I'm getting what I'm looking for. And online, I've been deceived time and time again by pictures. So
you mean the idea that you see something you want to...
see, and then you have to do research for hours. It's so hard to work to figure out, is that really the newest, latest, greatest, or am I just buying something that's sort of secondary to what I really want?
So for people here, you know, one of the discussions we were having is the fact that you know, traditional retail stores are learning that they also need to have an online component. Is that what you're talking about, in the sense that, you know...
I think it goes further than that. Because, you know, I go into a store and they've got these apps on our phones and pointed at a barcode, and it tells you all the stores that have it that are within a couple miles and what their prices are. Or press here and you buy it from Amazon directly. I really think that what would be good is a combination where the store is the good showing, letting you see physical devices, and if they don't have it in stock right there, but at least give you a good idea for what you want to buy, that you can maybe buy it online, maybe from the store, but maybe even from Amazon, and the store gets a profit, cut in. Maybe there's some arrangement in the future. I would say a consortium of stores or malls, work out deals with Amazon. We'll let people use their cell phones in our store, but just share the profit, of these sales. Because then the buying customer gets to see physically and know this is really what I want. The stores don't have to keep as much inventory. A little inventory helps because a lot of impulse buys, you want to take it with you.
So should we fear the death then of retail stores because of online, or is this, are we getting to the next phase where we're going to look at a different model?
I'm not in the retail business, and I've never been close to it. I don't know any friends that are in it, so I couldn't tell you, is it the end of retail or somewhat? I would think the trend is going to be downwards. I would just think so, because we have an alternative now. Buy it online, it shows up in the mail. What's the percentage going to be? Where's it going to fall out?
There's that phrase about there's an app for everything. There's an app for everything. I wonder if you happen to be a business person today, what's the app that hasn't been developed? What is it that you look for? You say, I wish someone would develop an app for that.
I don't understand the question.
Well, that's not one I want to hear. When you're a guy who invents things.
Yeah.
So when you look at something, do you ever get to a point where you want something on your iPhone, but wherever you search on the App Store, you can't find it, and you wish someone would develop it?
Oh, is there an app that I want that doesn't exist yet?
Yeah.
I don't really think about that, because there's so many apps that do so much for me that I enjoy using my product. I enjoy using my iPhone and my iPad, and I don't really think, oh my gosh, what app do I want? I know that there's apps, every app that I have has limitations. I wish it did something a little cleaner, a little more like me personally, the way I am. And I think voice control is the most important thing to me. Being able to just speak. Well, maybe it's questions like you'd ask an encyclopedia. How far is it from here to the moon? I just want to be able to ask questions all the time and be understood and get quick answers. Or, how tall is Whistler Mountain? And then it speaks the answer back to me.
That gets to the...
I have questions all the time that I just want little answers to, and we're getting closer to that. We don't quite have it fully.
Well, no, that gets to the point that with the iPhone 4S, before they took over Siri would do that for you, wouldn't it?
Sometimes I would talk into Siri, what are the 5 largest lakes in California? And it would give me the 5 largest lakes. It looked it up with a search engine called Wolfram Alpha that understands words like 5 largest. Well, now that Apple has Siri, I say, what are the 5 largest lakes? And I get all these people selling lakefront property. And I don't want links, and I also don't want links. We've had search engines for a long time, like Google, and those search engines, I don't want them. I want answer engines for the questions that I'm talking about. Google does a good job with that. I might talk in, what is Apple in Spanish? And right there at the top, it gives you the answer as well as all sorts of links. So Siri, now Siri I can say, I learned I can say, Wolfram Alpha, what are the 5 largest lakes in California? And it works, but I don't want to determine, the phone should determine what are the 5 largest lakes in California is a Wolfram Alpha type question. I shouldn't have to say, direct it to Wolfram Alpha. So I want things that work like a normal human being, people to people. You can say things sloppily, you can say things with leaving words out and they understand what you meant. Speech is very, very fluid and flexible, and it's not just one way you have to write things like computer programming. And that's what I want to see. I think these speech recognition programs are going to get more and more and more like that. Funny thing is, the internet is the hugest collection of information in the world, and Google, when you speak to it on the Android, tends to do a really good job of knowing what you want, what sort of things you might want.
So we get to this question, which is, I look at you and I think of someone who has probably got the answers to a lot of things that I haven't yet figured out the questions to. When you look in your crystal ball, you've been doing this for such a long time. You were at the start of it all. Where do we go from here? What are the things, what is the future of computing over the next 5, 10, 15 years?
It's very hard. In the early days, it was hard for me to predict anything more than a year in advance. I mean, it was easy to predict something 2 years in advance, but not to be right. We were working on things at Apple that were a year off, and within 2 years, some other thing would come out of nowhere, and that would be the way people want to do things. And a program that you thought was really important in life isn't important in life anymore. But, and then eventually, but now I get down to feelings that certain things that when I like them in computers, I hate it when they go away. And I like them when they make life easy for me, and I get to just be like I am, thinking out of my head. We had a message pad called the Newton, and I would handwrite, the first day I got it, Sarah, a little note to myself, Sarah, dentist, Tuesday, 2 p.m. And then I saw a button called assist, so I clicked it. It popped that into the calendar with the right person, the right place, the right date. Whoa, I didn't have to think. I just wrote it the way a normal person thinks out of their head. And ever since then, I've really wanted this natural, like speaking type arrangement. And I really think that's the future for these devices. Now, the devices are they going to get conscious? Are they going to really understand what you mean as a person, as a human being? And I believe it's going to happen. It's a long ways off. It might be 40 years off, Ray Kurzweil in the singularity, but they're going to get closer and closer to consciousness. Do we know what consciousness is? Do we know how the brain works? Anybody who studies psychology will tell you we know an awful lot of things, but we really don't know how the brain works. And we replaced part of the brain once already. You used to ask a tough question to a real smart person, right? At a college, a professor. Now who do you ask? Starts with G-O. Somebody said God?
And the unfortunate...
So you ask Google, and you get back tons of answers that no one person could give you, and it's so incredible. That's part of the brain. Did we invent the internet to be a brain? Did we ever set out and say, how do I build a brain? No. We just started hooking little computers together to send little files from researcher to researcher, and then we got more and more of them, and then we got ways to publish stuff and share it with even millions of people, and then we had to have search engines to find all this information, and that turns out to be a part of the brain. We didn't know it. So I think by accident we're going to stumble on conscious computers that have feelings and look at you and understand how you're doing. My little phone has all the senses I have almost. Doesn't have taste and smell, but it's got an eye and it's got an ear and it can feel when I'm touching it. It can tell when it's being moved, like your inner ear. It even knows where it is in the world from GPS. I mean, I don't know that. I wake up and say, am I home?
Isn't it amazing that we can build a computing brain and have all that stuff out on the internet, and the answers that come back are still wrong? It's sort of like, you know, when I write, I don't trust what I read on Google. I still do basic fact checking. So all we've done is we've created an electronic person who can also be wrong.
Correct. Yeah. But eventually, a personality understands you. Eventually, it's going to look at my face and know things about just my expression or the tone I use to say certain words. It's going to be judging me the same way a human being would, and it'll become my best friend. You know, I won't be alive probably by then. Might be 40 years from now, but eventually kids are going to go to school, and they'd much rather be with this little machine than with the teacher. It's going to be that human. And right now, we have problems with computers in schools. Is they just don't feel like a real human.
Do you worry that image you have of the future, the idea that you have a computer that senses you, knows you, reacts to you, that it can see you, becomes the surrogate for human interaction with each other?
You know, I haven't really thought deeply about it, but I would say yes, exactly. It's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to become, once my friend is here, because it has a lot better answers, it understands me, it knows my needs better than any human does. You know, once it's thinking, these machines are going to think better than humans. It's like right now we make little devices for the eye, little chips in your eye, and you can see 32 blocks of gray, and a blind person can barely tell where a wall is. Now we're making them with 128 dots, and we're going to be making them with thousands, and eventually we're going to make chips in the eye that see better than your eye. And we're going to be making devices in your ear that can hear everything that you can't hear, sounds that are high and low and everything off in the distance, and it'll sort it out for you. You're going to have better ears, better eyes. We can make artificial legs that'll run faster than humans. How natural are we going to remain? You know, it's like, well, I think I would choose to be a natural person. I don't want this artificial eye, but my kid is competing with other kids in school, and they're all getting the better eyes and the better ears. So pretty much everybody in the end, someday, is going to be improving themselves and becoming a hybrid. Half computer, half person, more and more.
I seem to recall that Hollywood had a series of movies on that. I think it was called Terminator.